Hello everybody, Pastor Mike here again with another Monday Motivation. This is Easter Monday, so obviously yesterday was Easter. And as you know, churches, they didn't meet actually in a physical building. A lot of them met online. I know mine did. And so for the first time in my life, and definitely the first time in my ministry career, we had church online on Easter, and that was the only thing we did. And so our family sat down, we all got up and got on the couch and the recliners and sat there in the living room, and we pulled up YouTube on our TV and went to our Project Re3 YouTube channel and waited for the countdown to begin for the premiere, and then up popped the premiere, the worship service for Easter. And we sat there together and we watched, and I had my phone out, and there were other folks within our congregation that were watching. And you know, as you know, with something like that, there's a chat that can go on. And so there was people interacting, and we were chatting with one another. And during the service, whether it was during the music or even during my sermon or whatever, I was getting texts from different people in the church just telling me just how great it was. And just not necessarily like the sermon or any one part, but just how great it was to feel connected again. And it reminded me of a story when I was in high school. I took a class called Small Engine Repair. Now, for those of you who might know me, I'm not the most mechanically inclined person in the world. So the fact that I was taking a small engine class in high school was a bit of a reach. But I was taking it, and we had a wonderful teacher by the name of Charlie Jacobs. And Mr. Jacobs was awesome. And he was very patient and kind with us. And even people like me who, you know, didn't know anything at all about small engines to begin with. And so we're in there working, and it just so happened that one of my best friends at the time took the class with me. And he and I were always playing jokes on one another. And so I'll never forget this one instance where my buddy Kevin and I were working on this engine, and we were having a little bit of trouble with it, getting it going, and Mr. Jacobs came over to kind of take a look at it, and I was not paying attention as usual. And Mr. Jacobs said something, and I asked Kevin, I was like, what did he say? And Kevin goes, well, Mr. Jacobs said to go ahead and pull the rope, you know, go ahead and pull it and give it a good start. I was like, all right. So I gave it a rip. About that time, you heard Mr. Jacobs yell. And he looked at me, and if looks could kill, I would not be here today. And Kevin just busted out laughing. And Mr. Jacobs looked at me and said, I was holding the spark plug and the wire, and I said, under no circumstances should you pull the rope. Well, of course, I didn't hear that. Kevin lied to me, and I electrocuted my shop teacher. So I thought about that story yesterday as we were all together texting and watching the worship service together. The fact that it does take two to be connected. I often hear that as a pastor, and I've heard that at every church I've been to, every church I've served at some point, somebody will say something to me like, man, you know, Mike, I just don't feel connected anymore. Well, I don't want to put the blame on anybody, but maybe it's you. You know, like, it takes two to be connected. Mr. Jacobs would not have got electrocuted if I wasn't the one pulling the rope. And if I hadn't pulled the rope, he would have been electrocuted. It takes two to make that connection. And just like in church, it takes a lot. It takes some effort for us to stay connected. Because we definitely know now with the world the way that it is, it can very easily disconnect us very quickly. And we may get, even though we're disconnected right now through not being able to physically be with one another, man, when we are going wild, we're busy with school, we're busy with work, we're busy with just life. And so we end up disconnecting ourselves before we know it. And so I want to encourage you, just during this time that you're away, as I said earlier on another video, distance doesn't mean distant. It doesn't mean that you can't connect. It doesn't mean that you can't, you know, send an email or a text or a phone call. It doesn't mean that somebody can't pop into your mind and you immediately kind of reach out to them to see how they're doing. It takes two to be connected. And so if you're feeling disconnected, if you were feeling disconnected before all this happened and now it's just amplified, I want you to ask yourself, what can you do to stay connected? It's not all on the other person. It's not all on a group of people or a particular church or your coworkers or whoever it may be. Sometimes it takes some effort on our part. So I encourage you, pull the rope, stay connected, and I promise you, you're going to love the outcome.